There are two kinds of people in this world: those who use their pain as an excuse to stay down, and those who use it as fuel to rise higher than ever before. Setbacks are not the end of the road. They are the resistance that sculpts the champion. They are not detours. They are direction. Life is not happening to you. Life is revealing you. It's showing you what you're made of. And in the moments when everything falls apart, you don't find weakness. You discover strength you never knew existed. You are not here to collapse under pressure. You are here to convert it. Because the truth is this: no comeback is possible without a setback. And the deeper the fall, the higher the rise. You don't become unstoppable by never falling. You become unstoppable by never staying down. The most powerful people you admire didn't live easy lives. They were forged in silence, broken in private, refined in fire. They bled. They lost. They questioned everything. But they kept showing up. And in the end, they turned their breakdowns into breakthroughs. That is the art. That is the path. That is the power you've been given to transmute pain into purpose. But here's the catch. You can't do it by accident. Comebacks don't happen while you're waiting. They happen when you decide. Decide that your story doesn't end here. Decide that the worst chapter will not be your last. Decide that you're not here to replay the same pain. You're here to rewrite it. That's the shift. It starts in the mind. It starts in your attitude. Because attitude is everything. You've heard it 1,000 times, but have you lived it? Have you held your head high while the storm was breaking your back? Have you chosen gratitude in the face of loss? That's where real power lives, in how you respond when the world tries to break you. Attitude is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing strength when fear is louder. Choosing growth when blame is easier. Choosing movement when paralysis would be justified. And when you change your attitude, you change your direction. You start to realize that the setback wasn't the punishment, it was the prompt. A divine interruption. A wake-up call. A mirror showing you what you've tolerated for too long. Because let's be honest, some setbacks come because we've been drifting. We stopped paying attention. We got comfortable. We ignored the whispers, so life had to shout. And that's not cruelty, that's mercy. Because you cannot heal what you won't confront. You cannot break cycles by playing it safe. This is where self-discipline enters. You see, most people try to recover from failure by waiting for motivation. But motivation is a liar. It's inconsistent. It fades. What you need is discipline, the muscle that doesn't care how you feel, only what you've decided. Discipline is what keeps you walking when every part of you wants to sit down. Discipline is what builds momentum when inspiration is nowhere to be found. Discipline is not just a habit, it's a weapon. And in the war against stagnation, it's your sharpest blade. If your life has fallen apart, good. Now you can rebuild it with intention. Not out of reaction, but precision. Not based on comfort, but conviction. Because a comeback isn't about returning to who you used to be. It's about rising as someone new, someone wiser, stronger, sharper. The setback stripped the illusion. Now the real you gets to lead. But to lead your life, you must master your mind. Because every setback brings a flood of toxic thoughts, regret, guilt, shame, blame. And if you let them run the show, they will rewrite your identity. That's the real danger. Not the event itself, but the meaning you give it. The story you attach. The label you accept. I failed. I lost. I'm broken. No, you experienced failure. You felt loss. You went through a breaking, but none of that is who you are. It's just part of what made you. The power of the comeback is this. You choose the narrative. You decide what it meant. You decide what it builds. The same fall that broke someone else can build your empire. The same pain that ended someone's hope can ignite your mission. Because it's never just about what happened. It's about what you do with it. And the first thing you must do is move. Move. Don't overthink. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Don't ask for permission. Get back in motion. Because motion changes emotion. Action resets identity. Progress, no matter how small, Gives your spirit evidence that the fire isn't out. It's just been waiting for air. Get up, clean your space, read the truth, write the vision, call the mentor. Forgive what you've been dragging. Do something that reminds your subconscious, we are not staying here. Because if you sit in your setback too long, it becomes your home. And you were not born to live in defeat. You were born to rise from it. That's the secret. You must see yourself differently. You must train your eyes to look at pain as training, not punishment. Every scar, training. Every delay, training. Every betrayal, every loss, every humiliation, training. All of it has been building you for what's next. Not one of your setbacks was wasted. They were all preparing you for a version of you that would never emerge without them. But none of that matters if you keep living in the past. Comebacks require emotional maturity, the ability to let go of what you can't change and focus fully on what you can. You can't rewind time. You can't fix what's already shattered. But you can pick up the pieces. You can reimagine the design. You can build something stronger, deeper, more resilient than anything you lost. And it begins today, right now, not tomorrow, not next year, not when you feel ready. Because readiness is a myth. Readiness is the lie you tell yourself when you're still afraid. But the truth is, the fear never leaves. You just stop letting it lead. You must walk with fear. Speak with doubt in your throat. Build with trembling hands. Move forward. Not because you have certainty, but because you have decided. You are no longer available for who you used to be. This is how comebacks are made. You rise in the silence. You build in the unknown. You discipline yourself until your results start speaking louder than your pain ever did. And that is where we continue. And that is where we continue. Because nothing is more dangerous than potential buried under excuses. You've been through hell, yes. But that doesn't disqualify you, it qualifies you. It sharpens you. It teaches you to see what others miss. You know how it feels to fall, and that makes your rise mean something. Anyone can climb when the sun is shining. But you've had to climb through thunder. You've had to build your ladder while falling. And you're still here. That's not weakness, that's evidence. You were never meant to be destroyed by the struggle. You were meant to extract power from it. And you can if you stop glorifying the wound and start honoring the lesson. Because pain only poisons when it is worshipped. But pain becomes power when it is processed. You don't need to carry the story anymore. You just need to keep the strength, the lesson, the awareness. Let the weight go, but keep the wisdom. This is where many people stay stuck. They want the comeback, but they don't want to release the identity of the setback. You cannot rise and still cling to the ashes. You cannot rebuild while holding onto rubble like it's a trophy. If it burned, let it burn. If it ended, let it end. Because what's coming will demand both your hands. You don't have time to hold on to bitterness, regret, or the illusion of what could have been. You only have time for what must be done. And what must be done is reconstruction. Reconstruction of your routine, your mindset, your beliefs, your expectations. The old rhythm that got you here will not get you there. And this is where responsibility kicks in. Because no one is coming to do it for you. No one is going to rescue your habits. No one is going to manage your time. No one is going to crawl into your soul and rewrite your self-talk. That job is yours. And it's the greatest act of power you'll ever perform. Responsibility is not punishment, it is liberation. Because when you take responsibility, you take back control. Control over your energy, control over your decisions, control over how this story ends. And most people never get to that point because they're addicted to blaming. Blame feels good. It relieves the burden of change. It allows you to be right about your pain. But being right is cheap if it keeps you from being free. Let go of the blame. Whether it was them or you or life itself, release it. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to move forward. Freedom begins where blame ends. And once you're free, your comeback becomes a choice, not a fantasy. A strategy, not a daydream. You start seeing every moment as a chance to reclaim your edge. You stop living in reaction and start living with intention. You don't ask, why did this happen to me? You ask, what does this make possible? That's when power returns. That's when the comeback ignites. It starts small with one decision, one new habit, one changed conversation, one hard truth faced instead of ignored. It doesn't look grand at first. It looks humble, quiet, almost invisible. But every giant comeback begins with a whisper that says, I'm not done yet. That whisper is enough. It's enough to carry you through the fog, through the doubt, through the nights where everything feels too heavy and no one understands the weight you carry. Because comebacks are lonely. Not everyone will cheer. Some people only loved you when you were broken because it made them feel better about their own inaction. When you rise, they'll get uncomfortable. Let them. You are not here to coddle their insecurity. You are here to honor your future. And your future requires movement. Consistent, disciplined, focused movement. Not dramatic leaps, just unshakable forward motion. Because there is no such thing as standing still. You are either progressing or you are decaying. You are either sharpening your edge or dulling your potential. There is no middle ground. That's why your habits matter. They are not just actions, they are affirmations. Every time you rise early, every time you speak truth over yourself, every time you choose growth over comfort, you are casting a vote for who you are becoming. So stop asking, when will my breakthrough come? And start asking, what habits would the breakthrough version of me already have? That question is gold because it puts the power back in your hands. Most people look at results and say, that's what I want. But winners look at the process and say, that's what I'll do. They don't worship outcomes. They worship execution. And because of that, they rise. Not by luck, not by accident, but by alignment. Your comeback is not something you wait for. It's something you build brick by brick, breath by breath, belief by belief. But belief is not a feeling, it's a practice. And you must train it. Train yourself to expect progress. Train yourself to see failure as feedback. Train yourself to speak like the future is real, not a possibility, but an inevitability. Because when your words change, your identity changes. And when identity shifts, reality follows. Do you know why most people never make a comeback? Because they spend more time arguing for their limitations than they do fighting for their liberation. They defend the old version of themselves. They replay the mistake. They nurture the pain. And they wonder why the new life never begins. But not you. You've made a decision. You've looked your setbacks in the face, and instead of using them as evidence for why you should quit, you're using them as evidence for why you must rise. You've seen what settling leads to. You've tasted what regret feels like. And you've decided never again. You are no longer interested in survival. You are here to thrive. And not by wishing, by working. By mastering the invisible hours. By refusing to let weakness lead. By turning your pain into purpose, your fear into fuel, your confusion into clarity. Because clarity comes through action, not before it. Most people wait for a roadmap. You build your own. You take the first step, and the next becomes visible. You take the next, and momentum arrives. You keep walking, and suddenly the person you used to be can't keep up. They fall behind. They fade. And in their place, you arrive. Not a perfect version, but a forged one. A version built from scars, from fire, from fierce honesty, a version who doesn't apologize for having fallen because every fall became the foundation. And that is what makes your comeback undeniable. You don't owe the past your loyalty. You owe the future your leadership. The setback was the classroom, but the comeback is the stage. You've suffered. Now it's time to shine. You've broken. Now it's time to build. You've fallen. Now it's time to fly. You've tasted defeat. Now it's time to feed on purpose. This isn't a cliche. This is your contract with greatness. And it begins now not by waiting for the world to believe in you, but by believing in yourself when no one else does. You rise by choosing, not by feeling. You rise by acting, not waiting. You rise by leading yourself when every voice says it's easier to fold. Your habits are the soldiers. Your standards are the law. Your self-talk is the general, so command it. Don't whisper weakness into your soul, declare war on it. Say it louder. I am not done. Say it again. This setback will not define me. One more time. My comeback is already underway. Come back from what? From betrayal? Good. Now you know who never deserved a seat. From failure? Excellent. Now you've learned how not to do it. From embarrassment? Even better. Now you're immune to judgment. From heartbreak? Perfect. Now you know the strength of your own heart. From burnout? Beautiful. Now you'll build with boundaries. The fall was necessary because you weren't building high enough. Now the real blueprint begins. It's not about revenge, it's about resurrection. It's not about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. The version of you that had vision, that had faith, that had something unshakable inside, that version was never gone. Just buried under fatigue, under noise, under disappointment. But now, with clarity in your eyes and fire in your chest, you remember what it felt like to move with purpose. You remember the version of you that didn't bow to fear. So rise, even if your knees shake, even if your voice trembles, even if your reputation is gone, your bank account is empty, your energy is low, rise anyway. Because you are no longer powered by ego, you are powered by vision. And vision does not quit. Vision does not delay. Vision builds even when no one believes, even when you're exhausted, even when the outcome seems far away. Because the process is sacred. The process is where greatness is made. Your comeback isn't coming, it's here. Every breath you take with intention, every task you finish with discipline, every moment you resist old temptations, every time you close a door on the old version of you, that's the comeback. That's the shift. That's the proof. You don't need a finish line to feel like a winner. You just need to know that you're not staying where you started. You are outgrowing your pain. You are outgrowing your patterns. You are outgrowing people who only knew the unhealed you. And yes, it will be lonely. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, it will feel like dying, because in many ways it is. The old self has to die for the new one to breathe. This is spiritual rebirth, not just self-help. This is psychological warfare, and you are winning. Quietly, daily, consistently. They won't see the comeback coming, and that's the point. You'll arrive without announcement. No need for noise, no need for applause. Just silent power, quiet dominance. That moment when the world asks, how did you change? And you answer, I never stopped building. Let them doubt. Let them whisper. Let them count you out. Because one day they will count on you. And you will deliver not from arrogance, but from alignment. Not because you need validation, but because you are living on mission. And people on a mission don't get distracted by nonsense. They don't waste time begging to be seen. They don't entertain drama. They build. So build. Brick by brick. Discipline by discipline. Mindset by mindset. Let your life become the loudest statement. Let your future echo louder than your past ever did. And when you look in the mirror months from now, you won't see who broke. You'll see who became. The setback was the soil. The comeback is the bloom. The pressure was the press. The fire was the forge. And now you are gold, refined, unshakable, undeniable. You are the proof that rock bottom is not a grave, it's a launch pad. Now, rise. Rise and don't look back. Rise and don't apologize. Rise and keep building. Because your best chapter has not yet been written. And you are holding the pen now. So write it boldly. Write it wisely. Write it completely. This is your comeback. And this time, it's forever. Comebacks are not about speed. They are about depth. Anyone can sprint out of desperation. Anyone can pretend to rise when the lights are on. But real transformation happens when you choose to slow down, go inward, and rebuild from the foundation. The deeper you go, the higher you rise. Most people want the next level, but they're afraid to dig beneath the surface. They want progress without truth, but you can't build a palace on top of denial. You must face your truth fully, fiercely, and without filters. This is the work that no one claps for. The emotional excavation, the brutal self-inventory, the confrontation with all the ways you've abandoned yourself to keep peace with the world, the lies you've told just to survive, the dreams you shelved to avoid being misunderstood, the talents you buried because someone once told you they weren't realistic. This is the moment you take it all back. Quietly, completely, and this time, you're not rebuilding based on what the world wants. You're rebuilding based on what you are called to become. No more building identities for applause. No more living for approval. No more seeking permission to be powerful. You've played that game. It cost you your fire. Now, you rise with conviction, not consensus. You do not need everyone to believe in your comeback. You only need one person to believe in it with ruthless consistency, you. The world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs people who have survived collapse and chosen to create anyway. It needs people who carry wisdom in their silence, not just noise in their ambition. And that begins with you building a life that is real, not impressive. Real. Because the truth is, no external success can compensate for internal abandonment. You can win the trophies, sign the contracts, build the empire, and still feel like a failure if your comeback is based on performance instead of authenticity. So choose something higher. Build not to prove, but to serve. Build not to impress, but to impact. Build not to be seen, but to see clearly. When your comeback is rooted in integrity, it becomes unshakable. And while others search for secrets, shortcuts, and schemes, you focus on the fundamentals. Because comebacks aren't complex. They're just uncomfortable. They require consistency in the basics. Waking up early, keeping your word, facing hard conversations, saying no when it would be easier to say yes, training when you're tired, speaking life when the voice in your head wants to curse everything. There's nothing glamorous about it, but there's something sacred in it. Every time you honor those basics, you reclaim a part of your soul that the setback tried to steal. You become someone who doesn't just survive life, you master it. Slowly, intentionally, purposefully. Because you no longer need a big break. You've become the break. You no longer wait for a door. You've become the builder of doors. And when you live like that, no loss can define you. No delay can derail you. No opinion can diminish you. You've become the kind of person who can't be broken because you've already been broken and rebuilt stronger. But here's what most won't tell you: comebacks demand boundaries. Not just with people, but with your own former self. The self that procrastinated. The self that sought validation. The self that said yes, just to avoid conflict. You cannot make room for a future self while still negotiating with the habits of the past. You must draw a line. Not in anger, not in fear, but in devotion. Devotion to the person you're becoming. Devotion to your future family. Devotion to your purpose. This is not selfish. This is sacred. Every time you say no to an old pattern, you say yes to your destiny. Every time you stop chasing approval, you start walking in authority. Every time you silence the noise, you amplify the signal. Your energy is no longer up for auction. Your mind is no longer a playground for chaos. Your heart is no longer a casualty of indecision. You've decided. Fully. Finally. And the moment you decide completely, life starts rearranging to meet you where you stand. The comeback is not just about going forward, it's about going inward first. Because true power doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't threaten. It knows, and you're starting to know. Not intellectually, but cellularly. In your bones, in your presence. In the way you walk into a room without needing to say a word and still shift the atmosphere. That's not ego. That's the energy of someone who has come back from hell and refused to stay a victim. You no longer explain. You embody. You no longer react. You respond. You no longer hope. You execute. This is the frequency of a real comeback. And it's only just begun. As you stand on the edge of this new day, remember that every choice you make, every minute you decide to focus on what truly matters, creates the future you want to live. The habits you build today, the focus you develop, the decisions you make to stop being busy and start being productive will be the foundation of your success. You are not defined by how much you do, but by what you accomplish. You have the power to create the life you want, not by filling your days with endless tasks, but by prioritizing the things that move you forward, that align with your goals and vision. The time to take control is now. You can no longer afford to waste time being busy. You must choose to invest your time in actions that create value, in activities that bring you closer to your goals. When you do this, the results will speak for themselves. You will experience progress, fulfillment, and success because you are focused on the right things. Every winner understands that it's not about how much they do, it's about doing what counts. And you have the ability to create that same focus and success in your life. Take a step back, recalibrate, and align your actions with your vision. The habits you form today will shape who you become tomorrow. Now, go forward with clarity. Go forward with purpose. Stop being busy and start being productive. The world is waiting for you to step into your greatness. The choice is yours. Make it count. And now you stand here not because the path was easy, but because you refused to bow when it got hard. You stand here not because life spared you, but because you spared nothing. You gave everything. You broke open. You emptied yourself. You rebuilt from fragments. And now you are whole in a way the old you could never comprehend. This is not just a comeback. This is your arrival. Not a return to who you were, but a revelation of who you were always meant to be. A person forged in truth, hardened by pain, softened by wisdom, refined by fire. No applause can add to that. No opinion can subtract from it. You've earned your peace. You've built your power, and you carry it now. Quietly, humbly, completely. Because the real victory is not that you rose. The real victory is that you never gave yourself away. You didn't sell your soul to survive. You didn't trade your vision for approval. You didn't abandon your heart to avoid failure. You kept going. You kept building. You kept choosing courage when fear was the easier answer. And now the world feels it. Not through your words, but through your walk. Not through what you post, but through what you embody. That's power. That's leadership. That's the kind of comeback that doesn't just change your life. It gives others permission to rise too. You don't need a crown. You don't need a title. You don't need a stage. Your presence is the message. Because when you rebuild yourself from the inside out, you walk differently. You breathe differently. You forgive faster. You let go quicker. You focus deeper. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer fight battles that don't matter. You protect peace that does. And that's what this was always about. Not just getting your life back, but getting yourself back. The self before the collapse, before the compromise, before the detour. And maybe, for the first time, you've finally arrived. No longer apologizing for your standards. No longer negotiating with weakness. No longer wondering if you're worthy. You know now. You're not the failure. You're not the fall. You're not the regret. You're the rise. You're the lesson. You're the proof. And from this moment forward, everything changes, not because life gets easier, but because you are stronger. Not because the world finally gave you a chance, but because you finally gave yourself permission. Permission to win. Permission to outgrow. Permission to outlast. Permission to overcome. Permission to return to the fire without being burned. This is not just the end of the story. This is your new beginning. And this time, you're unstoppable.